Tervehdys, Laura.
Terve, Otto.
How's your Monday starting today?
Well, Monday has started actually very nicely. It's been a while that sun has been shining.
Yeah,
So I think it has been a very, how would I say, well-needed start for the week.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Spring is now finally arriving. I can see the ground already. The kids are driving their bicycles, and
Yeah.
it feels kind of like it's been a really long winter,
Yes.
cold winter. It hasn't been this cold here, this part
Yeah.
of the Finland, in maybe in 40 years.
Yeah.
So it's been quite a special winter in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have some exciting news to tell about this. Well, tell me, what are we organizing next autumn?
Yeah, I think it is time to get the, how would I say it, fullness or the whole spectrum of the Finnish sauna heritage and culture to the world. And we have been doing that by offering this experience here at the Sipojoki Heritage Sauna.
Yeah, already past a few years.
Yes.
The past few years we've done this once a month or twice a month. We've had this evening.
Yeah. And actually we have now 5 times a week. We have the
now we're treating,
public shifts going on and the sauna treatments that can be booked. But still, it's not enough because sauna offers so much more. And so we have concluded that there is no other way but to start actually practical and theoretical trainings.
Yeah, that's right. The training aspect of it is certainly one aspect. But I also would highly recommend people to sort of take it as a retreat, sort of as a few days of enjoyment in the, like, immersing oneself in the tradition. And the concept is already in Finnish. We have a full training to become this kind of sauna healer. It's starting next autumn. And soon we will be releasing these details about this English language. Like, we're planning to have it 4 days, perhaps. So you can come here, perhaps take a holiday in Finland at the same time, try out all the public saunas we have, take your whole family, and then take a few days for yourself to learn how to use these whisks, maybe learn some basic runes, how to sing them in sauna, something like this, to really have like the spirit in it. Not just this room which is hot, but actually just experience how to how would I even say? There's so many good Finnish words that I could use, but like almost like travel, like that the sauna experience is about traveling to some place, and this is what we're offering here next autumn.
Yeah, and also the concept is to offer the full sauna ritual. And we as we call ourselves the heritage sauna, we of course we want to base anything we do or anything we offer to the Baltic Finnish heritage. But it doesn't mean that we want to sort of travel back in time. Like when you were saying travel, it doesn't mean travel back in time or travel to not even in some to a place, but travel happens in sort of, how would I say, in experience. And we want to offer the chance to experience the core, the essence of the Finnish sauna culture. And actually, funny enough, when you dive deep into the essence of the Finnish sauna culture, you're actually diving deep into the essence of the whole Finnish or Baltic Finnish heritage.
Yeah,
that's right. What we realized, that because you cannot separate sauna from the culture overall. You will dive deep into the forest, into the nature wisdom, and into also the social aspects of it.
Yeah, and you learn some basic practices to heal people in sauna. So it will be a very exciting I would say maybe retreat, maybe training. We will still sort of figuring it out what's the exactly how we're gonna talk about it.
Yes.
But at this point, you can send us a message in Instagram or send us an email and ask more if you're interested, and we will come with the full details very soon.
Yeah, but the one sort of emphasis that I would like to point out here is that traditional way of learning things has not been that you attend a course and you get a certificate and then you have that. Traditional way of learning is just that you immerse yourself into something in the guidance of someone who has already done that.
Yeah.
And this is what we want to practice here. We have this, in Finnish it's called kisälli or
apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship,
that's
correct.
Right.
Yes, that's the word in English. So we want to sort of emphasize this aspect of learning. You learn by just coming here, spending time, doing the practical things. Of course, we do also theory.
Yeah.
We talk about things like we do in this podcast.
Yeah,
we talk.
Is this theory or practice?
We don't know, but
maybe both.
Maybe both, and I hope it's both.
Yeah.
Because that is life is not something theory and then practice is something else.
Yeah.
It's all one.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to also in this training or apprenticeship retreat, whatever we want to call it. This is what we want to bring. It's the traditional way of learning by experience and by doing it.
Yes, that's right. So if this sounds interesting, contact us and we'll tell you more.
Yeah.
But we actually have a great opening segue to our topic today from what you said. So some people might wonder, what on earth do we mean when we say Baltic Finnish? Like, how on earth is the Baltics connected to Finland?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so what would you say? Like, why don't we say just Finnish?
Finnish, exactly. Well, especially if we talk about sauna heritage, it is very artificial to say Finnish.
Yeah.
Because sauna, like we talked in the episode where we talked about the origins of sauna, sauna comes from the time when the borders of these nations were not there.
Yes.
And the Baltic Sea has been sort of a common ground. People used to use boats a lot. So we traveled. So waterways were the fastest way to get around. So the Baltic areas share a lot of heritage. So this way I would say that it's more accurate to talk about the Baltic Finnish heritage than just about the Finnish heritage.
Yeah, this also in academia when they talk about this time period, saying, what would I say, perhaps a few thousand years ago to maybe to the Iron Age, that could be described as the sort of Baltic Finnish like heyday, because then all the influences ran back and forth between like all of these modern states that we have nowadays. And it used to be these tribes of different sort of, were they related? That's also an interesting question. What does it mean? Were they related by language or genetics or whatever? That's a different question. But what we do know for sure is that culturally they were related, and many sauna-related words also and nature-related words we get from our sort of Baltic cousins. So I keep like Estonians and Latvians and Lithuanians in really high regard in sauna issues, but also in other ways.
Yes.
So that's
and Russians also have of this, like the whole Baltic area.
The whole northern sort of Baltic area is definitely sort of a still today it is a hotbed for sauna and sauna culture, definitely. And I applaud the efforts of the Estonians and Latvians to take this to the world and show what they have, like what is their sort of aspect to this. But one thing what I've noticed in my studies, because I'm really interested in mythology and history, and I would say my university degree is in social history, so also like how do people come to believe things that they do believe or know things that they know. And what I've noticed is it's very interesting, because when you study, say, the oldest yoga texts from maybe for even, I would say, 4,000, 6,000 years ago, all the way to our national epoch and all of our sort of rune singing heritage, you start to notice some similar elements in there. There seems to be, so for example, this kind of hero's journey. Somebody has been stolen or something has been stolen. The hero has to go and get it back. So it doesn't matter whether you look from the Finnish runes, from the Rig Veda, or the texts of Homer, or the Beowulf, or Eddas, and all of this, or even the Native American stories. You seem to have many of these. Another one which I really love is that the sort of god figure is lowered from the sky. That's to the land of the mortals and so on. So I always was wondering, how on earth can this be? Like, how these cultures that seem to be so separate seem to share something in common. What do you think? What's the reason behind that?
Well, there are many ways to start thinking about this question, but certain symbols, certain how did you say tales or stories?
Yeah.
They convey meaning that is universal, not related to time or a certain place.
Yeah.
And I do believe that there are these core factors that sort of everywhere have been wanted to pass on.
Yeah.
So that is just sort of in human nature.
Yeah.
In a similar way, when what we were talking about the origins of sauna, there are certain basic truths that you can vary them a little bit according to your location, the atmosphere, the climate, the timing, or I mean the era that you're living in, but the core ideas are something that these things don't affect.
Yeah.
And these have been very nicely, like this those few examples that you raised.
Yeah.
I think they convey these meanings.
Yeah, actually, I think I would want to like take these two words that you said, meaning and core. I think we can sort of, this could be our approach, because nowadays we all have a philosophy. That's a strange thing to say, but like a lot of us don't even think about what is reality, for example. What is consciousness? That's also an interesting question. And now, since we have like the AI discussion, it's funny that now we actually are interested in what is conscious. Is AI conscious? This is a question that we hear from the media, if not every day, all the time now, which is, I would think it's a golden opportunity to really spend some time to think about, like, what is a human? What is the relation between like a human experience and the experience of an animal or a plant? How do humans interact with each other and relate with each other? These questions require a philosophy. And it tends to be that if you don't think about these things, you just adapt or accept some kind of philosophy that doesn't come from your sort of own background necessarily. It might be a religious identity, sure. It can be an atheistic. It can be sort of, if it's atheistic, it's usually also this kind of mechanistic, so that you think, perhaps you think that human is just a very complicated machine or something like this. But understanding these ancient traditions from this perspective is very difficult. Yeah. I think religious people have it like they have the door open, but also they might have trouble figuring out, for example, what these Finnish runes are telling about. It's easy to say it's just superstitious people praying for rain, praying for, being afraid of the nature, and then that's why praying for some deity to give bountiful harvest or something like this. It's pretty usual to explain it like this, but it's simplistic. And also, if you think about mechanistically, like, and you try to understand the ancient sauna practices, that they were just, these people thought they were machines, and they went to sauna to fix their machines or something like this, just to sort of make it simple. But if you think about it in either of these ways, you have quite a lot of trouble to understand the meaning, the core of these practices. Like the really important question is that why did these cultures in the north see it so important to have these sauna buildings and practices for thousands of years? What is the reason why they saw it as important?
But we don't have, at least I haven't been brought up with a culture of sort of questioning my own philosophy of life or my own myth of life.
Yeah.
I call it myth because it sort of describes the idea that it's a one possible way of seeing things. It's a my story of what world is, what life is, what experience is. But we don't have it's generally given to us and we don't question it.
Yeah.
We don't even have the culture of thinking that it is something that is possible to be something else.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why when we look at for example, this sauna heritage, the runes or invocations we've used in the sauna, we assume that these come from people who also experience the world in the same way that we do and I do right now.
They had a similar common sense. That's what we assume usually.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And we don't question that. So we try to interpret from our standpoint of view.
Yeah.
And that is what I want to little bit sort of shake.
Yeah.
That maybe it is that we also have a story that we tell and our common sense comes from that story. And maybe it is possible that, for example, these invocations that have been harvested from these people, maybe they have their roots in a worldview that comes from a totally different story.
Yeah.
And this has been for me a very, very key point in what has changed my view of what is sauna, for example.
Yeah.
Very, very well familiar sauna.
Yeah.
Actually, if you start thinking that what is the basic concepts that I look at, it is a very good to stop for a little bit and to have a little look at the sort of basic idea what is going around. What do we in general right now consider what is life?
Yeah.
Before you start even going very deep into the mythology or philosophy of sauna, you have to first be able to little bit see what is your view in life and in general, what is your common sense?
Yeah, that is the core question, I think. What is life? And when we understand, that is the core even, like when we understand what is life, it's sort of, it gets a lot easier then to understand the meaning behind all of these cultures that have produced these wonderful practices. And well, let me tell me a story about my journey with this, because when I was reading to the entrance exam of my university, we had the Nicomachean Ethics of Aristotle to read, and we actually had to just almost memorize it because it was just the questions, otherwise really hard to answer. So I was reading that maybe, 5 to 10 times during that spring. And I came so familiar with Aristotle that I started to think like, oh man, like he's almost like me, he sounds like a 19-year-old guy, thinking about life and so on. And it was sort of a very comforting idea. But then later on, first with the university studies, and then especially later on when I went to India to study the Eastern philosophy, I noticed that most of these concepts that I just sort of assumed in the translation are talking about my life were way more complex. When looking at the original text, you would see there's tens of difference of meanings to every word. And I understood that although the translation was pretty good, it was still the translation of that person. Like he made that sort of interpretation on how to look at this text. And the same thing I think has happened to me with these runes, Finnish runes. because when we're like in elementary school, all of us, we have been taught the stories of Kalevala, but we have also been taught sort of a philosophy of life in that sense, because what they assume actually is that these people were superstitious fools. Pretty much, if we're just really honest about that, that's what most of the people say, and it just, depending on the time, depends whether it's those people were superstitious fools or those people were superstitious wise people. But the superstition is still there. So my journey from this Aristotle fanboy, 19-year-old, to where I'm now, is that now I understand that there's been a whole school of thoughts that have been around the world who have been developing a philosophy that could explain their world and allow them to create these practices. So they were really serious about this. And if we want to find one common thread throughout all of these ancient cultures, I would say it is that they would see life as an organic whole. Breathing, living organic whole. So unlike most of these modern Western thinkers, and I consider like Sir Isaac Newton to be a modern Western thinker, it is a really stark contrast, because they would say that the world is like a complicated machine. And what is a machine? It's something that is sort of mechanistic. And mechanistic is the opposite of an organic, living, breathing whole. So we sort of have these two views at odds. And for example, when we think about this podcast, I think most of these themes that we talk about don't make sense if we think about life as like mechanistically. Or what would you say? Do they make sense? Can it make sense like that?
Well, this mechanistic viewpoint in life easily also leads us to think that what is true is only what you can conceptualize in words.
Right.
And when it comes to sauna heritage, that's a little bit difficult starting point, because many times mythologies and folk tales, and also this like ritualistic practices that comes along, they address something that is beyond words.
Yeah.
And when we try to take our modern, quite mechanistical standpoint, it sort of flattens these practices, and it flattens also the like, for example, the runes that we use in the sauna tradition. Because I like this metaphor that I think Bernardo Kastrup uses, where he says that
he's a Dutch philosopher.
Very someone who everybody should make acquaintance with.
Yeah, he's like analytic master. Yes. Like his mind is super analytic.
And he speaks in a very clear way.
That's right. Yeah.
But what he says about this is something like that: if you try to draw a diamond and you make the diamond shape. Yeah. So it's the same thing that happens to these myths if you try to take them literally from the mechanistic point of view. Yeah. That you flatten it.
Yes, that's right.
Because the runes that we sing in the sauna, they address something that is beyond words.
Yeah, it's experimental. Yeah. Like, sort of. What is it? Based on experience, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it's also based on the understanding that life or experience, or actually I would even say consciousness, is something beyond your own rational reasoning mind. Because this mechanistic worldview easily assumes that consciousness is our rational thinking, analyzing mind of words.
Problem solving
mind of words. But the runes or even I would say sauna healing practices come from a concept that human being or life itself is something that these words that we say is just a tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
The rational mind is just the tip of the iceberg, and actually the practices are more interested in the wholeness of the ocean that the iceberg is in than just the tip of the iceberg. So this is something I find very that at least for me has been a very changing point when I realized that, okay, if I try to take these practices literally, or I try to take these runes literally, that they are some superstitious literal words, I lose the big picture.
Yeah, and this has been a big school for me, because I would consider myself pretty, like, I have an analytical mind. So to be able to shut down what philosophers call this, like, metacognitive functions, so which mean that you are aware that you are aware. So problem solving, mostly our waking life, we're really having this metaconscious sort of mode of mind. But then when we go to sleep, metacognition shuts down, and then we just experience. And actually, dream is something that I would sort of compare it to. Like when I'm in a sauna ritual, and I relax and I let go. I don't have to think about what I'm gonna eat tomorrow. What bills do I have to pay? Whatever. Everything is taken care of. So I have my time, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, just be with myself. Then, as this analytical, this metacognitive state of mind shuts down, I would call it almost like pure experience. Like I'm not trying to concentrate on anything. I'm not trying to direct my focus to anything. I'm just experiencing. And this is sort of what, if we're looking at the core, if we're looking at the sort of meaning of the practices, it is that in this kind of state, it seems that the ancients had this idea that from this state, you experience who you really are. All of these sort of layers that we put on top of it, and these identities, I'm this or that, they're not what we really are. They're sort of defined perhaps by us, but especially I wouldn't overstate if I say that most of it is influenced by others, or even decided by others. So that's why, and I also think about the health benefits of sauna from this way. Like we don't have a problem with having that. We don't have enough analytic state of mind. Like that certainly doesn't seem to be the problem. Like our nervous system is telling us that we're a lot in this very alert state. But what we do have is that we have a massive deficit on this sort of non-metacognitive state. There's also a name in philosophy. It's a phenomenally conscious state, almost like just experiencing life. So we have a deficit on this. And I would even argue that what the ancients knew is that the more you spend time in sauna and engage in these practices, the more you are. So the feeling when you come out of the sauna and you feel whole, like in Finnish we say terve olo, so healthy. That is the feeling when it is your true self expressing. So this is, I think, when we look at it from this lens, we start to approach the answer to the question that we had from the start of the episode. Why do these have these common myths? Because these myths try to tell something about life. What is life? They try to explain it in different kind of mythical languages. What is life? And depending on which geographical location they are, they use symbols that are known in that place. Yeah. So, for example, in Finland, they might use ocean, trees, bear, mead, bread, all of these kind of things that we know in here. And they sort of assumed that as we go to the future, also the future generations will know what we're talking about. But this, they assumed they couldn't have made that assumption, like that they shouldn't have, because the problem nowadays is that we have trouble understanding what they're talking about. We necessarily don't understand that they're talking about life itself, your life. It includes you, it includes me. So this is what we many times miss when we study these.
Yeah. We also miss it by thinking that it is about me.
Yeah, also like that is my psychological inner
Yeah.
states. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So it's not about you, but it
Yeah.
is about you.
Yeah.
So
It includes you.
it includes you. But it's more than you, and it's and yeah, I am repeating myself now, but many times the misunderstanding comes from the idea that we thought that when those ancient people were singing these runes that they were taking it literally.
Yeah.
But I nowadays I tend to believe that they knew that they were singing those runes so that they could point to something that cannot be said.
Yeah.
And then when we come to the sauna practices, I love it that we have the chance to actually sort of take these runes or take the mythology, take the philosophy from our ancestors and live it, experience it, make it real.
Yeah.
By practical means.
Yeah. Today, not going to the past.
No.
Not even thinking about the future. Maybe thinking a little bit next generation. We're thinking about that, but we don't have to go to the murky past in our lives. We don't have to wear these medieval clothes or something like this. It's not part of this.
No, and we don't have to abandon electricity, or we don't have to abandon cars, or
that's right.
We don't have to. These truths are beyond time, so they are beyond words. They are beyond time. So in that way, they are true in every stage, also in this very technological world that we live in now.
Yeah.
But I have one more small detail to say that I have found that is a very beautiful way to sort of get a little bit grasp of this concept of your authentic self that you were talking about. This that you have the chance in the sauna ritual or in the sauna healing, you have the chance to sometimes just express your authentic self or this phenomenal stage. That you can, for a little time, you can just shut down that rational thinking, problem-solving mind. And I love that in the Finnish culture, we still practice removing our clothes before we start the ritual.
Right.
Because I feel that is a very important, it really speaks to our subconsciousness. When we remove our clothes, we remove those stories, those roles.
Yeah.
All those layers that we build on ourselves, the society has built on ourselves, our family lineage has built on ourselves. So it's a very healing ritual just to remove your clothes and enter into the sauna. As you sort of there in very practical way tell to yourself that now it's just me. There's nothing added now. Yeah,
and that is actually also like when we look at the healing rituals around the world, whether it's wet bathing or this Temazcal rituals or the ancient Roman baths or even like Southeast Asia, South Asia, they also have their bath culture. This you don't go to the sauna with your clothes on, like you just don't do it. Like you might have a cloth of something or maybe your swimming suit nowadays, but still like the clothes that you wear every day to express yourself, because that's why we keep warm, but we also express ourselves with our clothes. So it certainly has been also in the ancient times this idea that you go there sort of to be renewed. And that is, if we think about the meaning of ritual, I know it's a scary word for many people and so on, but I think it's an ingenious word. I love the root of that word, like this Sanskrit word rata, which means like the path, sort of like the Chinese have the Tao. So sort of you go to a journey. That's why I mean with the journey in the sauna, is that when you start the journey by removing your clothes, you start afresh when you go to the sauna. It doesn't necessarily feel like that because you might still, all these thoughts linger and, you know, maybe you have difficult time to be there, right there in the moment, in the ritual and so on. But still, like, as you do it more often and often, you start to notice this, that it is a journey every single time. It is a different journey every time. And for example, for me, the fact that I used to maybe have sauna once a week or twice a week for most of my life. Now I have 6 or 7 times a week. And just a year doing this has really changed my experience of what happens in the sauna. It used to be more like this idea of keeping fit, socializing with friends, maybe having a couple beers, this kind of almost like going to a pub kind of thing when I was maybe in my 20s. And nowadays, it is I would almost, it's every time, especially in this sauna, it is a holy experience. Like holy in that sense that it is a space that is, I'm usually alone actually, and that's the funny part, it's just me going alone in a journey to this smoke sauna. And in this sense, I think I'm pretty convinced that it sends a really positive signal to the sort of unconscious layers of my mind. It says that, you don't need to be anxious because you don't have to think about tomorrow, now you're just here. If you need to think about tomorrow, put some more water to the stones, that takes away the tomorrow, or go to the cold plunge. It takes away the tomorrow. And even if I'm thinking about the past, which might make some people sometimes depressed, it doesn't look like that in the sauna. Like if I think about like some sad thing that has happened in my life, I look at it with acceptance. It doesn't sort of stir up my emotions and all of this, not in the same way as in this everyday life. And for this reason, when I'm in company also, sauna is the only place where you don't argue. It just doesn't feel good, It starts to be too hot at some point if you start to argue in the sauna. So it is a place also like to share the journey and share the health benefits that we get.
Yeah. So do you translate this taarta as a journey? Would you say that?
It's one way to say it, yeah. Tao also refers to the gate that you're walking through. So when you go to a Shinto temple, for example, you have a set of gates. So you walk through the gates, sort of that demark your journey in that. So yes, I would.
So how about the etymology of ritual? Does it come from the word rite, or this then to rite as a rite of passage, or this, or then just the word right, that something is right, something is as it's supposed to be? Yeah,
as I've understood, the root of the word is exactly that. So it is when something is right, you're doing a ritual. So, and that's also a really important point about the ancients, is that at their time they had a whole subsect of people who were dedicated to constructing the rituals in the way that they're right, that they sort of reflect how the world is. So they had some principles about how they tried to describe life, because they also had this scientific mind that they said we need to like code our understanding of life to these rituals, and we need specialists to do it. So for example, the sauna healer, or a healer in general, like a tietäjä, what we say, he would be someone who would shut down his metacognitive functions by going to trance, going to a sauna session or other ways. And he would sort of pick up information from the deeper layers of the mind. And not just his mind, and that's what say their belief, or I would even say knowledge, is that it's just not limited to the mind of the healer, but he's tapping into some sort of, I would even say, collective knowledge base. And then he would come back and he would use these tools to construct these rituals so that they're right, just right. Yeah.
And then by performing these rituals, you sort of adjust your journey to be in harmony or be right. That's what I feel that is in the sauna rituals, at least very like practical, or you really get to experience it, that it's sort of if you consider your life as a path, then sauna rituals aid you to sort of make your path go smoothly where it's supposed to go. It's never the same. It's not the fix that every time you have a sauna rituals, these things should happen. But it's like in when you're walking a path, it's all the time changing. But it's just exactly how it's supposed to be. You're on the path.
That's right. You're on the path, and the more you do it, the more self-confident you are that this is the path that I need to go. But still, we can still there's one thing that I would really want to address is that some people would say that this is a religion, so that we're practicing a religion. Okay, if we look at the Latin word religion, in that sense I could even agree with that, because religare means to tie together, like something that seems separate is put together. That means religare. But nowadays religion means that you have to believe. That at some point when we talk about these things, then I would just tell to you, okay, now we have to shut up and believe. That's it. And it's not like this at all. And I would even say that even if one would be very convinced that the world is like a ticking clock and we're machine, like a cogs in a machine or something like this, we could even find a language to speak about what we spoke just previously with this kind of person. And then we would maybe put some kind of measurement device or a ring or whatever, and we would look at how our nervous system works. Yeah. So we could see, okay, so you had a stressful day. The whole day was your sympathetic nervous system was on, and you were stressed out. Now you came to the sauna ritual, and now just take a look. It's changed. It's your parasympathetic nervous system now. Yeah. So this is just another way, another language to speak about almost the same things that these ancients were talking about, except they didn't close themselves out from the world. So they saw life as organic, breathing whole, and the human person would be interacting with this seamlessly. So there's no seam between like the person and the world. And these, I think these two things are the core differences between the sort of common sense of the ancient person and the common sense of the modern person.
Yeah, and that's why I have to emphasize that's why in this podcast, at least, we are very interested in defining the sort of viewpoint where we look at these things, because like you said, we can talk about the nerve system, or we can talk about your heart rate levels. I don't know what they're called in English, these terms.
HRV.
But yes, you can really check all those, and we can have the conversation on this level. Yeah. We can also have the conversation on the psychological level, how you've been feeling, how you feel afterwards, what kind of relationship it brings you, or how it reflects to them. We can talk about sauna in that context. And we can also talk about the mythology and runes, all that. But the thing is that when we would put a classification of religion, or I think in the modern day, maybe we wouldn't call this religion, we would call this spirituality, or this new age spirituality, maybe. Perhaps, some like stamp like that we could put. But that is okay also for me. Spirit is a spirit of sauna. So
exactly.
So no problem being about spirituality.
I would have a problem if someone would say I'm a new ager.
Okay.
I don't like that.
Yes. That might be that something we couldn't tolerate. But other than that, spirituality, all this, very fine.
Why not? Yeah.
Not a problem. But it's only when we understand that we don't take things literally. Yeah. That there is this understanding that when we talk about very spiritual terms, we understand that there is actually very how would say it can there is wisdom to it that we accept that our rational mind cannot reach. And that's why we don't limit ourselves to our rational mind. We don't limit ourselves to spirituality, that we don't take away the rational mind, but that things can be talked on all levels. And that is what we're interested in.
Yes. Exactly. And the meaning of this episode is like we have this core concepts that we try to define in this episode. So it is the meaning of the practice. It is the sort of
standpoint or starting point.
The starting point, like philosophical basis.
Yes.
And we wanted to define like how does it differ from the modern mind.
Yeah.
So but now a warning is in order. Like as we told, it is experimental. I'm always saying this experimental. It's based on experience.
Yes.
Experiential. Yes.
Yeah.
So one cannot think through these things.
Yeah.
That's actually why we mentioned this retreat that we have. It is meant to sort of give the platform to experience things. And in this way, change the direct experience of your life. That is the meaning. That's why we are doing this. That's why that is sort of the whole mission of this, that we allow people to experience something just like from their own standpoint and see what kind of positive effects it could have in their life. And it's very nice to hear, like it almost touched me when you told that there was this one lady that came to your event, and she said that they came here with her husband, and when they went home, she said, my husband was like a different person, like a whole different person. And I just love that. Like that is and it was a positive thing, like positively different person. Yeah. So like just one sauna time in a traditional smoke sauna can do that. Actually, I've seen it so many times. It can do that. But to really change your life, it means that your practice has to be regular.
Yeah.
So and that is the point behind like the change of my experience was that when it went from 2 times a week to 7 times a week, it really the quality matters, but the quantity matters as well. And again, if you want to talk about this with the language of science, then we know that Professor Jari Laukkanen made a study in East Finland and noticed that men who have a sauna at 5 times a week or more have a 60% decrease in Alzheimer's, heart disease, and many, many different markers. So what we could actually like agree with the ancients, I think, is that the more sauna, the better. That is pretty much the sort of, everything is to the limit, of course. If you just have to force yourself to sauna, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing in that sauna? If you have to force to go there, but like to go there through enjoyment, there's no upper limit. And the more you go, the more benefits you get. Yeah. I would even argue that.
Yes, and I would also add to that in our modern mechanistic view, we would like to now listen to you and say that, okay, now I'm gonna take, I go 7 times a week,
20 minutes at a time,
20 minutes at a time, and then I go and have my cold immersion, and then I have my this practice, okay, and that's how I'll change my life.
It feels like shit, but I still do it.
I'm gonna do it because now that's the way to do it, and that is gonna fix all my problems, everything. But I would little bit challenge this, what you're saying, though I agree 100%. But easily it is we think like a machine, that if something is broken, we can just take some tool and we fix it like this.
Yeah, that's right.
But sauna tradition or this sauna heritage comes like what we've been talking about, the concept of living cosmos. And that when something is a living, breathing being, the fixing is not fixing. It's actually just removing any blockage that is blocking the free flow.
Yes, exactly. This is a really core difference between the modern and the ancient thinking, and it can be an obstacle. Because if the mentality, sauna works nevertheless. No, it doesn't care about your mentality at all. It fixes you in that sense, that it makes you feel better. Sure, but sort of the intention behind what are you doing with the ritualistic use of sauna, it definitely matters. And letting go is the point. Like, you relax and you let go. You don't actually do anything. You just, when you let go, you start slowly to figure out who you really are. And when you figure out who you really are, you can express yourself freely without something, these conditionings that you probably didn't have any. It's not yours. It was conditioned somewhere else. And the idea is that when you're able to express yourself freely, from your authentic self, then you can unleash your potential. So there's also this idea that, it is not just to, fix something like a machine. It is more like changing your perspective. And when your perspective changes, then you notice different things, and you start to find the real meaning. And I would be so audacious, well, how do you say that? That I would say that it can relieve you the meaning of life.
I think I would agree with that. Well said.
Yeah.
Yes. The interesting thing is that many times people, when they come, for example, here to the heritage sauna, they really want to know how many minutes to spend, and they want to sort of how would I say, they want to, like in general in our life, we want to give the responsibility always, the government looks after this, the doctor says this, then I just do this. I blindly follow. So when you talk about letting go, I want to little bit like how to say, fine tune this word or these words, because letting go in the sauna context is not about letting go of your responsibility of how you feel. Sauna is a place of very hardcore honesty. You really have to be honest about yourself. And many times I feel it's a very good practice of this sort of like healthy letting go, that you don't let go of your responsibility of how you're feeling. Like, for example, okay, today this heat is too much for me. It's just too much. It's not good. And then the greatest letting go practice might be that you step out at that point, and you don't give the responsibility that, or somebody gives me the minutes I have to say, or somebody says that this and this is what I have to do, but you actually let go in a way that you let your let your true self be there. And it's a very practical things. It can be like I said, that okay, this heat is too much for me. Okay, I have to now sit a little bit lower. Exactly. I need to pour some cold water on myself. It can be really like practical small things, but they sort of write to your subconsciousness or unconscious mind this way that you take full responsibility of your life with a very sort of, from the point of view of love and honesty. And not from punishing yourself, but actually because you love yourself so much, you want to be honest about who you are, and these small practices can be there.
And there's actually one example. I'm ready to be really critical, because I think this was pretty nasty, but I saw a video on YouTube about this. I think they were Swedish YouTubers. And they had booked a time from this Finnish guy, Sauna Timo. He was a competitive sauna guy. Like, he went to these competitions, and there was this tragedy where this Russian competitor actually died. And he got really severe burns all over his body. And it took a while for him to get better. And now he's doing sauna again very regularly, and actually he's doing sauna treatments as well, which I like really like for I like it. For men, you put some honey and so on. They're very nice. But when these Swedish guys came to Finland, they were like, no, this is Sauna Timo. He's the world champion. He's like, now he's gonna absolutely murder us in the sauna room. And it was like we had to train. They went to a couple of saunas before, and this interplay between these YouTubers and Sauna Timo was just, I didn't like it at all. Because Sauna Timo, although he seems to be a really calm, nice guy, he sort of had this idea of punishing these guys in the sauna. They had a smoke sauna even, and we know in this smoke sauna that if you pour 2 of those scoops of water, that löyly is intense. I'm having a sauna like, even if I have so many times as I do, it's too much for me. Absolutely too much. I'm running out. So he was trying to test these guys. And these guys had promised before, I'm not leaving first. And I would look at these guys suffering. They were really suffering. You could see from their face that they would want to be anywhere but there, like anywhere. Yeah. And that's actually even dangerous. So that's another reason why I didn't like that. But of course, when they came out and they went maybe cold plunge and they were, it's so amazing and so on. But this is exactly what's wrong when you don't have the philosophy, but you do have the tools. Yeah. You have the smoke sauna, you have your sauna experience, you know how to heat it, you know how to prepare it, all of this, but still you go in there to punish yourself. So that's the problem. Sauna shouldn't feel like hell. That's not the idea. Yeah. The idea is to have it like the surrounding of the letting go has to be such that you feel that the whole process is like a journey. Like you go to walk to a nature park, the journey. Okay, sometimes you might misstep. Ouch. Fine. But not like the idea that it's the whole experience is like hell. Yeah. That's exactly the opposite of what a true sauna culture is.
Yeah, and even if you look at the runes, the invocations, it's always about giving the pains and aches and sorrows away to the rocks of the sauna stove, and having the healing löyly. So nobody ever prays for harsh bad löyly that will make you suffer. Yes. Is not written in the concept. So this, I think this also is sort of just a reflection of our culture, where we think that no pain, no gain. Yes. So then we take that into the sauna, and the more we practice it there, then more we also see it in our lives. So I think it's very important to consider where do you want your sauna ritual, what kind of part do you want to reinforce with it? Yes. So that's why it's also sometimes good to stop and think, what am I doing? Yeah, exactly. So if you're pouring the hottest löyly and having the most hottest dry sauna, what kind of life will I project for myself with this practice? Yeah, that's right. And many times it is actually very interesting. Nobody should get too attached to this idea, but if you little bit observe what kind of löyly does a person create, it tells many times. It's good to observe yourself. What kind of löyly do you create? Yes. It many times reflects what kind of life do you create for yourself. That's right. And also here in Siipojoki Heritage Sauna, we have to take this into consideration. Today, for example, is the men's sauna session, and we really take care that the sauna is hell of a lot of heat in there. It's that the rocks are really burning bright red. Yes. And tomorrow there's the women's sauna session, so you have to be careful not to heat it too much, because it really tells about this, about your maybe even a general attitude towards life. Mm-hmm. And but also the good part is that I've noticed that people who come more often, it starts to soften up. Yeah. It very rarely goes the other way around. Yeah. Sometimes it does, but very rarely. Most of the times people start to appreciate more also the softness of the löyly and the healing properties of löyly, instead of that whiplash that you get from a lot of water. Yeah. But maybe we sort of scratched the surface with the philosophy now. A little bit. Yes. But this is a running thread in all of our episodes. Mm-hmm. So listening to this episode, maybe if it feels like it was too theoretical or difficult, maybe you can listen a couple of times. So if you want to really get the idea of what is our approach.
it is.
And I would also like to hear if there is somebody who is wondering about some terms or words that we use. We speak about runes, we speak about spells, we speak about heritage, we speak about many things we just throw out there very lightly.
Yeah.
And I think these will be terms that we will come back to many times and maybe make episodes of them. But if there is something that is really sort of disturbingly unclear, we would love to know about that.
Yeah, tell us. Yeah, you can always send us a message in Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and of course, if you like this, just hit that subscribe button in YouTube as well. You will then. And also, if you put on the notifications, you always get informed when new episode comes. We actually try to do it every week now. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
see.
Okay. So thanks, Laura.
Kiitos.
Kiitos.